As Tom Bennett stood in his backyard, the air felt heavy, like the world had paused to catch its breath. His late wife, Laura, had poured her soul into this memorial gardenia patchwork of roses, daisies, and dogwoods that bloomed like memories of their daughter, Sophie, gone too soon. Every petal was a promise, every leaf a whisper of love that held Tom together after Laura's illness stole her away. But that afternoon, as he rounded the corner, his heart stopped. The garden was gone, shredded. A mess of uprooted plants and trampled blooms lay scattered like a battlefield, and standing in the wreckage were four men in crisp blue uniforms, shovels in hand, smirking like they owned the place. Tom's knees buckled. His chest burned with a fury he hadn't felt since his days in the Marines. "Stop!" he roared, his voice slicing through the chaos. The men froze, their eyes flickering with uncertainty before one stepped forward, a wiry guy with a sneer. "We're with the HOA," he barked. "This garden's out of compliance." Tom's fists clenched. "Compliance? This is my land. Who gave you the right to tear it apart?" The man shrugged, cold as ice. "Orders." But Tom saw the lack of badges, the cheap patches on their sleeves. These weren't HOA enforcers. They were imposters, hired muscle playing a dirty game. His mind raced, piecing it together. This wasn't just about a garden. It was an attack on Laura's legacy, on Sophie's memory, on everything that kept him grounded. He stormed toward them, his voice steady but laced with rage. "You're not official. What's your angle here?" The men shifted, glances darting between them, their bravado cracking. One muttered a curse, but they didn't answer. They didn't have to. Tom knew this ran deeper than a few fake cops. This was the HOA board, the ones who'd been squeezing the neighborhood dry with fines and rules, flexing power no one questioned. Until now. Tom didn't sleep that night. His dining table became a war room, covered with HOA documents he'd ignored for years. Board meeting minutes were vague, financial records a maze of dead ends. But Tom was no stranger to strategy. Years in the Sayre VYC had taught him how to spot lies, and these papers reeked of them. He found proxy votes from members no one had ever met, funneling the same clique into power year after year. Worse, he uncovered bank transfers community funds meant for parks and roads siphoned into accounts tied to the board's relatives. It was a racket, plain and simple, and Laura's garden was just collateral damage in their quest for control. He called his neighbor, Ellen, a retired lawyer with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. "We need to show everyone," she said, her voice firm. "This isn't just your fight, Tom." One by one, he reached out to the neighbors, his words raw with anger and grief. Some gasped, others cursed, but all felt the same betrayal. By dusk, a crowd gathered in his front yard, their faces a mix of shock and resolve. Laura's ruined garden loomed behind them, a silent witness to their rage. Tom held up a photo of the fake enforcers. These men weren't HOA. They were hired to scare us, to break us. The board's been lying, stealing, and they thought we'd stay quiet. Ellen stepped up, pointing to the financial records. "They've been pocketing our dues, funding their vacations while our streets crumble." The crowd erupted, murmurs turning to shouts. A young dad, cradling his kid, yelled, "We want answers." The chant grew, fierce and unyielding. "Justice! Justice!" Tom felt Ida's spark of hope amid the fury. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Winterdale, about taking back what was theirs. The next morning, they marched to the HOA office, a glass and steel fortress that once seemed untouchable. Signs waved high, "End HOA corruption," as neighbors who'd barely spoken before stood shoulder to shoulder. Jane, a teacher, clutched a banner painted by her students. Old man Jonah led the chants, his voice booming like thunder. Local news vans rolled in, cameras capturing the fire in their eyes. Tom's heart pounded as he spoke to the crowd. "They thought they could silence us, but this is our home. We won't stop until they pay." Inside, the board was scrambling. Tom had already sent his dossier to an old Marine buddy, Sam Carter, now a federal investigator. Sam's team had been digging, and the EVY Denke was damning. Embezzlement, blackmail, intimidation. The HOA president, Greg Sullivan, had orchestrated it all, funneling dues into his own accounts while threatening anyone who dared question him. As the protests swelled, car doors slammed, and federal agents stepped out. Sam led the charge, his face grim but determined. The crowd hushed as Greg emerged from the office, flanked by agents, his smug facade crumbling. "Greg Sullivan," Sam said, voice cutting through the silence. "You're under arrest for fraud and embezzlement." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Greg's cuffs clicked, and the cheers erupted, wild and triumphant. Tom stood back, watching the man who'd ordered Laura's garden destroyed face the consequences. But he knew this was just the start. The board's web of lies had tangled politicians and local bigwigs, protecting them for years. Exposing it all would take time, but Winterdale was ready to fight. Weeks later, the neighborhood gathered in Tom's backyard. The garden was blooming again, every flower a testament to their defiance. Kids ran through the rows, planting seeds, while neighbors like Clara, who'd lost her own husband, set down daisies with trembling hands. Each bloom was more than a plant, it was a story, a memory, a promise to never let corruption take root again. The HOA had new leaders now, honest ones who listened. Tom, once just a grieving widower, had become a quiet hero, though he'd never admit it. He knelt by a rosebush, the scent of fresh earth filling his lungs. For the first time since Laura's passing, he felt light, like the weight of loss had lifted just a little. As the sun dipped low, casting gold over the garden, Tom smiled. This was Laura's gift, Sophie's laughter, and Winterdale's Tory. The fight had been brutal, but they'd won not just for the garden, but for their dignity, their home. The neighborhood wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and they'd never let it slip away again. So what do you think? Was Tom right to take on the HOA, or should he have let it go to avoid the chaos? Could the neighbors have fought harder, or was there unity enough? And what about the system? How do we stop this kind of corruption from happening again? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if this story fired you up, and subscribe for more tales that'll make you question everything. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story on Store of Good Stories. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to hit like and share the video to spread this positive message to more people. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the meaningful stories we share every week. Your support is the biggest motivation for Store of Good Stories to keep bringing heartfelt and valuable stories to you. See you in the next video. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story on Store of Good Stories. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to hit like and share the video to spread this positive message to more people. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the meaningful stories we share every week. Your support is the biggest motivation for Store of Good Stories to keep bringing heartfelt and valuable stories to you. See you in the next video.